Hey everybody, welcome back to In Style Atlanta. I'm your host, Sky.
And I am your co-host, Merritt. We're so glad y'all are here. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh my gosh, yes, Mary, it is such a pleasure to see you. This is probably like one of my favorite times.
It's mine during the week too, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, oh, Wednesday's me and Sky, can't wait.
Yes, I just love this synergy thing that we've got. And we get a chance to talk with a lot of fascinating people. And now we have got an amazing, what do we want to call him? We'll call him a commentator because he's going to join us today. Yes, so my friend, Jarard J. Now, we may have known him as a radio host. He's also a TV personality here in Atlanta. He is just an all-around amazing guy. And I am so excited that he's going to be joining us for Hot Topics and World News today.
Me too.
Jarard, are you there? There you are. Okay, I like it. I like it. You look fantastic, honey.
Okay.
What's going on?
Hey, how are you? So,
Good.
Jarard, obviously you know me. I'm Sky.
Mm-hmm.
Jarard, we haven't met. How are you? I'm Merritt.
Hi, Merritt. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Come on, giving us fashion on COVID on this wonderful Wednesday.
You got to cover up the COVID growth some type of way.
Okay?
So,
okay, okay, Jarard.
That is a fantastic color.
Yeah.
What is that? Like topaz?
Turquoise.
Turquoise.
Yeah.
A little some summery.
You know?
So how have you been?
I'm good. One day at a time. Just focusing on stuff that I have control over, and everything else just letting it be what it's going to be.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
I always like to, have a little sprinkle of some male, testosterone up in here. So, thank you. Thank you for shedding some of that little Lowry seasoning salt.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So, you know what? Let's get into some hot topping. So what I want to talk about are the Jimmys apologizing, and that's Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon.
Right.
They're apologizing for the blackface. And Merritt is giving me eye. So let me.
It's a real topic.
Yes. So let me run it back in case people aren't familiar with who the Jimmys are. So when I refer to the Jimmys, I'm referring to Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. Now, both of these are late night hosts on major networks, and they were both under fire for using blackface in their comedy sketches. Not recent comedy sketches, but for instance, with Kimmel back in 2018, he portrayed Karl Malone.
Mm-hmm.
And Karl Malone is a former NBA player. Now, when I went back and I saw this YouTube clip, and, he did, use that, I don't even know how to even put this, but that dialect that he used along with the blackface, which was very degrading to me watching that. I did not find that particularly funny. That's me personally. He used blackface, obviously, on his face. He also his arms and his legs. Now, in 2001, I did some more digging, and I found that he did an impersonation of Oprah as well. That wasn't funny either. Mm-hmm. And he was jumping on the back of a Hispanic woman, well, on the front side of a Hispanic woman. So I don't know, that was not funny. Now moving on, but when he was doing this though, he was on Comedy Central. It was a show called The Man Show.
Yeah.
It should have been called The Idiot Show.
Sounds like it.
But hey, that was 2018, which was a couple of years ago. Now, the Oprah, like I said, was 2001. Now, earlier than that, 2000, that's when Fallon decided to do an impression of Chris Rock. Now, he hit that impression head on. He did a really good impression.
He did
work together.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's SNL people here.
Exactly. Now, did I find that as offensive as Kimmel portraying Karl Malone? No. To me, the Chris Rock was funny. because he got it spot on. I don't think he was making fun of Chris Rock. It was more of an impression. The NBA Karl Malone impression was more, to me, like he was poking fun. I don't know. What do you guys think? Have you guys seen that? Was that offensive to you?
So here's how we look at it, which is funny because you actually said it yourself. When somebody does an impression and the impression is right on, then it's not offensive to us because they're right on, right?
Yeah.
But when it seems like it's spoofy, or when it seems like they're in front of us, then that's when we get offended. That's the first point. The second point is, I think when this was happening in the 90s or whatever this was, this kind of thing was, it was kind of blown off by us. We didn't really look at it with the type of a lens of we're going to look at it now because of the sensitivity of the situation that we're in right now. So naturally, we weren't going to look at it the same type of a way. Now, if it's something extreme, like Karl Malone was a bit extreme, and I think he got a lot of backlash from that even then, but it kind of got swept under the rug because we weren't living in the same tumultuous times that we're living in right now. So if you notice right now, anything that has anything to do with Black culture or anything like that is really, really, the focus is much more intense right now. You know what I'm saying? For example, I mean, you can go in the grocery store right now, and it's funny how people are getting out of your way, and if you're in traffic, and white people are wanting you to go over, stuff like that. It's just more sensitive now, right? But at that time, it just wasn't viewed the same way unless it was something that was obviously meant to make fun or make joke. You know what I'm saying? So it's just we're living in a different world right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would only add that, I mean, both are wrong, right? Like even if the impersonation is spot on, which again, right, like they've worked, it's SNL, all those things, you can still do the impersonation and we would know that it was Chris Rock if you weren't in blackface. So like the historical connotations to blackface and the true in-depth hurt that it means to our community, it's like, no, like it is terrible. It shouldn't be done under any circumstances, especially given the context of what blackface means. And like even to viewers, if you're tuning in and you don't understand the context, one, I always encourage you to learn more about it, but two, just quickly, it means we, even if you were a Black actor and you were in film, you had to literally paint your face Black in order to represent what Blackness meant during that time. This is like Jim Crow era when, we didn't really have rights and we were still being lynched. And so like the historical context of what blackface means, no, it's off limits. And it especially shouldn't be from a white person doing that. Like, y'all know better. Right. Cut it out.
You remember the movie Tropic Thunder? I can't remember the actor. Oh my God. Robert Downey.
Robert Downey Jr. Yes.
Yes.
So I'm the Black dude who's playing the Black dude who's Black. Yeah. It was satirical. So like I get it. It was satirical and like that was their point, but also like no.
Well, what about when Blacks portray whites then?
Like Dave Chappelle.
I have seen that.
Like Dave Chappelle.
Yes.
like when Dave Chappelle does it on his show. Again, I mean, like it's like, I'm gonna be honest, it's like the N-word. Like we can do it, y'all can't. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Martin Lawrence did it. Jamie Foxx did it.
Jamie Foxx's was hilarious. I forgot about that.
White Chicks, duh. There was a whole movie.
Oh yeah, Jamie's was the best though. That guy when he was doing that casting, I forgot about that one. That was good.
And to be serious about it though, there are Caucasian people who get offended when that happens. Like I remember when Martin Lawrence had the Bob character on Martin. There were people who were offended by that. When Jamie Foxx did Tyrone Coppola, there were people that were offended by that, white people that were offended by that. And, you have to give them their room to be offended if they want to be offended, just like they have to give us our room to be offended as well. But it is a little different. And yes, there is a little bit of a double standard there. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And I think that anybody who sits there and says that there isn't is not really being realistic because there is. And that's okay with us because we have a right to be offended by certain things. Blackface is different than portraying a Black person. Now, I do like to differentiate the two. because if you are intentionally doing blackface, especially as she was talking about what the meaning of it in the history of blackface is, that's a problem for me. If you are doing a comedy parody about a black person, that's a little different. You know what I'm saying? I have to know that that's what you're really intending to do before I'm going to really get that upset about it. Like, for example, the Karl Malone situation to me was blackface, right?
Yes, I agree.
I haven't seen
I
it.
agree.
That's blackface. You know what I mean? And so the fact that he came out and apologized for it, I think it's commendable, but it's 20 years later, right? So I know that there is a strategic reason as to why the apology came out right now, and I respect that. I respect Jimmy Kimmel for doing that. It's better than him not saying anything at all, because
Right.
as you tell, what's happening is all this stuff is getting dug back up out of the grave now. There's all kind of stuff coming up, and you better address it when it comes up. You better be quick enough to comes up and talk about it, you know, or else. You know what I'm saying? So I commend him for doing that, but we have to address these things when they happen and make sure that people understand they're not okay when they happen. And I think that if they did that, then you would be looking at a little bit of a different situation now. But unfortunately, that's not the way it went.
No, and then speaking of digging up, now I want to kind of switch gears. I want to talk about some products that are going to be doing some rebranding because they want to put an end to some of this racist branding. And these are all brands that are, you know, may even be in your kitchen right now.
It is right now.
Mama.
Yep.
And our good old Uncle Ben.
Let's take it. I mean, Miss Butterworth too. I mean, if we go do Aunt Jemima, might as well add her on that platter too.
Cream of wheat, the cream of wheat man.
Oh, I forgot about him. Yes,
Yes.
I have that in my
And
kitchen.
you know what else is changing their branding strategy? Eskimo pies.
Yep.
Oh, good for them.
Did
You know,
not
change?
know that.
The Redskins, they should change too.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, I didn't dig into
And
sports
Tar
teams.
Babies. Yeah. We should go, like, let's just go all the way.
All the way. And I just think it's funny because those have been around for years and they had Black models and, you know, that were that happy server. I'm bringing out the, you know, cha 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 cha. Here's your pancakes. Here's your Aunt Jemima. You know, they had Mrs. Butterworth costumes. My God.
Right.
Insane. I mean, none of the ones that I've seen, I didn't see them in any blackface, so thank goodness. But what is your thought on that, on the rebranding? Is it about time? Do you still support them?
I think that is progress. I think that it's happening because of what we're going through as a culture. I think that now, again, as I said earlier, people are paying very close attention to anything Black, and they're doing it because they better do it. They're doing it because they know that right now we all have very, very itchy fingers right now because of everything that we're dealing with. And so I think that what everybody's trying to do, especially on the business end, is trying to protect their business, knowing that we are the ones that buy that product, right? So they need to protect and make sure that they show some sensitivity towards what we're going through. Whether or not it's an authentic intention, that's not, I don't think what the thing is. I think their thing is, I need to make them feel like I have their back and like I understand what they're going through. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about. It's about marketing. It's about business. It's about strategy. And I think that even if what we're dealing with right now had to be the caveat for this to happen, I won't, because it's overdue.
It is. I agree. Merritt?
It absolutely is. Again, historical context, like we literally have mammies plastered on on a bottle of syrup.
Yeah.
Again, like historical context, if you don't know, please look this up. It is fine. Educate yourself. A mammy historically is a slave who worked in the house. And, you know, this term that we use now called a wet nurse, that originated from a mammy because she took care of the master's children. She breastfed them. She took care of the house. She did not want to do that. The symbol literally signifies a working slave. And so, yeah, this is long overdue. And to your point too, Jarard, like, is it true intention? I don't know. Here's the thing. Take it down. Stop.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if you remember, I may be incorrect, but I feel like the Aunt Jemima image that was there, I feel like it had evolved.
It
Did
did.
she not have like a turban that was like tied up front
She
where you
did.
could pull her figure? Okay.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Then they put a perm in her hair and
Okay.
thought that would
Yeah.
like water it down. No, it's still offensive.
Okay, and that's what I thought. Yeah.
Here's the thing about the whole Aunt Jemima thing. You have to understand that this has been an issue for a long time. Like, this has been in the news before.
Yeah.
Of course.
This is not just coming out in 2020 because we're dealing with so much racial injustice. This has been happening for a while, and there was a progression of her. And I think that if you think about it, when it was in the news before, a lot of people's feathers were ruffled then. The issue and the difference is that we had more patience for it then than we do now, based off everything else that's going on. You have to understand what we're seeing right now, we haven't seen since the 60s in Detroit, you know what I mean? Or since the LA riots. And even those were not quite built off the same pattern as this stuff is right now. Like, this is very indicative of what we went through. And I talked to my mother and my grandmother about this, who lived through and were in the Detroit riots. And they both told me that this reminds them of exactly that. They remember the National Guard walking down the street. They remember, you know, how everybody's tempers were flared because of what was going on at the time. They remember that Black people as a whole were just tired and fed up and just at the point of no return at that point. They remembered that. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't alive. I didn't see that. So for all of us, this is the first time in our lives that we are seeing something with this much severity in terms of a racial injustice type of situation. And so, yes, anything that was towing the line maybe before, or anything that was maybe offensive before, is all of a sudden going to be very offensive now.
I also think
it's definitely magnified. Mm-hmm.
But I also think that COVID has caused it to be like a perfect storm. We're all home. So because we're all home, it means, you know what? Like, enough is enough. I am going to go out every single day and remind you every single day, enough is enough. Absolutely. And to that, I'm grateful that we have that opportunity for that.
Agreed. Absolutely.
So time is definitely changing. So which brings me to my last topic. And you know, how do I feel about this? Like, it's like I'm kind of excited, but then it's kind of odd. But I'll tell you why I'm excited. All right, so my next topic is T.I. is going to be going back to school. Actually, yeah, he's going to be teaching a class.
Yeah.
Clark, Atlanta. It's called The Business of Trap Music.
Yeah.
Now, according to Billboard.com, T.I. is going to be teaching the class this fall alongside presidential leadership scholar and co-founder of the Higher Education Leadership Foundation, Dr. Melva Williams, who we're actually going to have on In Style next Sunday. So that's going to be a nice treat. So that's what I'm excited about, to really be able to dig into this course. Now, T.I. says, and I quote, "I'm excited to share my experiences and whatever resources or information I have that can be an asset for the future." He goes on to say, drugs have existed for as long as humans have been on Earth, and music has existed for quite some time as well. The commonality that threads the two together is what makes trap music a dominant force in culture today. So that is a quote from T.I. I would absolutely love to interview Tip and talk more about this. I can only imagine, I'm sure he's probably going to get that vocabulary list up and popping. And I wonder if this is going to be an actual class or will this be a virtual class? And man, that is going to be one packed class. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on T.I. teaching a class at Clark, Atlanta? It's crazy, but good. It's going to be so interesting. I know everyone's going to be lined up to take that class.
For sure.
It's a very exciting thing for me. T.I. is a very, very intelligent dude. He is a very eloquent dude that we all know that much. But the thing about him that I respect the most is he's a very passionate person. And if you're around Tip and you understand and have spoken to him and that conversation with him, you know that the beginnings that he's had and the journey that he's traveled to get to where he's at now, he believes in every single piece of it. It's a passion for him. You know what I mean? And trap music isn't just about selling drugs to make money to do your music. Trap is about a culture within a culture, because this is a culture that people that are within it, this is all that this is what they encapsulate. This is what they know, how to make progress out of nothing, right? And there's trap doesn't have to be all just about Atlanta or whatever. There's different versions of it depending on where you are. Hip hop is hip hop, and there's different trap stories within hip hop from all kind of different cities. But I think what Tip has done is he's been able to captivate an audience to a point that wants to know exactly everything about him from the moment that he was pretty much born. And I think that it takes a certain type of person, it takes a certain type of influence to be able to have that type of drive in people. You know what I mean? That's not something that everybody has. So I commend Tip on this. I think that it's a very unselfish way of him to explain his travels to the people that are going to listen. You know what I mean? One thing about Tip, he's never tried to force anybody to hear his story. He gave you a story, and if you picked it up, listen to it, then great. And that's always been his thing. Like, if you notice, he's never been the type of person that tried to overdo it per se, or tried to, you know, make you understand something that you were not going to understand. But he definitely did explain his journey and how he traveled it. And I respect him for that. I think that this is going to be good to anybody that's sitting in that classroom that wants to know about this division, or about this version, I should say, of hip hop culture and how it became what it is. Because at the end of the day, you have to give him credit for should we say penning, or should we say kind of coining that whole phrase and that whole genre. You got to give him credit for that. Whether you believe you have to give him the credit for that, because he's the person that brought it to the forefront, along with others. Of course, you have Jeezy and a lot of other guys, but he is the person that brought it to the forefront, to the point where everybody was like, hey, what's that about? That was Tip.
He was definitely the pioneer in that. I will never forget. I was working, where was I? Oh my gosh. 97.1 Jams. And, you know, remember back in the day, Jarard, when they used to have, like, the artists would bring their little sampler CDs. Now it didn't even have his picture or anything on it. You just saw like the T.I. Oh my gosh. So yeah, he's definitely been doing this for quite some time. And look at the road that he has paved for all the other trap stars. Trap music has, I think, evolved from its beginning to where we are now. Merritt, what do you think about this class?
First of all, I love it. And for several reasons. Oh, I would definitely take this for several reasons. And what I love about it is that, like, it's so multi-layered about what we're talking about, right? So, like, we have the you know, the facade of what trap music is, and I have probably so many trap music playlists. I can't work out unless it's trap music I'm listening to, period. Like, I think I'm on the block selling right now. So, like, that, you know, like, that inspiration motivates me, but I think it is deeper. So I think, like, I think trap music is a clear example of what, like, Black Lives Matter and all of these movements are talking about when we talk about what happens with institutional racism. I think it also, like, explains and helps us understand and see that Black people are dope because they are being discriminated against. We do not have access to anything because of housing, because of education, because of careers, because of the penitentiary system, because of all of these different things, right? We still have made a way where we are still the most influential in anything that we touch. So to me, I'm like, yes, take a class, help people understand what it means for trap. And again, like, I'm excited about it because it is innovative. And also, like, I probably am one that is not with the masses on this, but I don't really, I have a different opinion about, like, drug money. Because to me, pharmaceutical industries are doing the same exact thing of what somebody's doing on the block. The only difference is they have a patent that says that they're allowed to do it versus somebody on the block that does. Both drugs kill people. So, I mean, get it how you can. Those are my thoughts, you know.
Well, you know what? It's going to be real interesting, especially when we have Dr. Melva Williams on. So I'm excited about that. Dig in and really find out what made her want to team up with T.I. and come up with this innovative class. So this should be amazing. So that does it for me for my hot topics. Now, Merritt, what's going on in the world out there?
Girl, honey, child. Okay, so the first is CNN just reported that there has been a rise on COVID cases. In fact, the COVID cases are now 9.2 million cases that are confirmed worldwide. WHO predicts that it will reach 10 million cases within the next week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's not better. So as a result of that, what's happening is in the tri-state area where I am here in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, all of the governors have aligned and decided that they're requiring anyone who's coming out of state, if you come from a high area or a high risk area of COVID, then you have to be in quarantine for 14 days before you can come to any of those 3 states. And the sad part is that's 26 states. That's over half of our country have now peaked high rates of COVID. And here's the worst of it is that the EU, the European Union, which composes of 27 countries, they are considering blocking US travel until we basically can get our COVID cases down. So like, this is how serious this is. This is how dire we are with these things. It's not just the US, it's other countries as well if they have high cases, but we're now shifting to a point where if someone has high cases, then they're protecting their own, if it's the state, if it's the city, if it's the country. So my question is, I mean, what do you all think can be done? Do you think it can be done under this administration?
Oh my goodness.
And that leads to, again, and I think I asked this a few weeks ago, but here we are again. Should there be different policies? Should there be a federal policy so that the U.S. can truly get down and cut down these cases, or should it continue to just be up to the states for them to make the decision on what they think is best?
Well, so when I was reading about this, of course, because now it's like everywhere in the news. Now, New York, you guys have some of the, you have nucleic cases, but they're not as high. Your numbers are so significantly low.
Yep.
On the decline, I think. And then down in Florida, that is kind of becoming the new epicenter. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know where Georgia falls in there because it just looks kind of real fuzzy, but I would imagine it's probably kind of high. Why? Because while you guys were still on lockdown, we were out and Florida was out partying. People were at the beaches. And
to be clear, we're still in lockdown in New York City. So we're just there's 4 different phases. We're in phase 2. Phase 2 means that some restaurants have opened, but it's only outdoor seating. And the outdoor seating is 6 feet from another table. There's still specific hours. You still are required to wear a mask. And we're still, like, if you're not going to those places, you still need to be inside in your home. They're not playing here.
Jarard, your take?
So here's the thing. I mean, I think we have to take it back to common sense here, right? The only way that you're going to have this thing in control at all is if you limit the exposure. The only way you're going to limit the exposure is if you're not around any people. Here's the problem with that when it comes to the United States of America and, quite frankly, a lot of other countries in the world. We have went through our quarantine phase and we saw what it did. We saw people lose their jobs. We saw everything just kind of go down the toilet. The government is not going to allow for the economy to go all the way down in the toilet in this country, regardless of who gets sick. They're just not going to allow that to happen. And so now what's happening is as these cases continue to rise, which they're going to start doing exponentially very soon. Why? Because we're all back outside now. We're all around each other. We're going to the club now. We're in the restaurant. We're out there on the water. We're just doing stuff as if COVID doesn't exist, right? So these cases, as in Atlanta, we've seen now, because when we started protesting, now the results from then are coming in now. Yeah. And we're up 18 cases in 24 hours here. right? That's because of when everybody started going back outside, because it takes a couple of weeks to get those results and things like that. So we're in a situation right now in which there would have to be a decision made, which I think is very unrealistic. There would have to be a decision made at a very high level to say, hey, nobody can go outside, period. And they're not going to do that in this country anymore because of the fact that it has a serious effect on the economy. They will not allow for anything to overcome or overshine the importance and the relevance of the dollar. That's just not going to happen here, because that's what the country thrives on. The economy is what drives everything in the world. We all know that, right? So that's my fear about it, because they're not going to shut us back down. They're not going to put us back in quarantine as these cases continue to rise exponentially. If you think about it, the rate that they're rising right now is worse than the rate they were rising when they called it
originally. Yes.
virus, right? So why haven't they issued any more orders? It's because they can't, because economically they cannot afford to do it. And that's the real answer as to why it's not going to happen. So what's going to happen? Well, you're going to have more cases. You're going to have more people infected. You're going to have more people that are asymptomatic that don't know they have it. They're going to come across somebody whose body does not receive it the same way their body received it. And now you're going to have somebody seriously ill or worse. And that is what's going to continue to happen. And that is what the fear is for me, because quite frankly, you really don't know whether you're exposed to it or not. And now on top of that, we're finding a lot of errors in the drive-through testing sites, and they're finding people that are testing positive, going back 2 days later and testing negative. And that's happening a lot. So now what do you do? How do you gauge which tests are authentic, which ones aren't? How do you keep people away from it if they don't know they're around it or not? And on top of that, how do you preserve the economy while doing all of the aforementioned?
Something's got to give, and we all know U.S. is all about that mighty dollar. So
yep.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better, Sky. I mean, as long as our country it runs in the capitalist way, then the thing that will always mean the most is money, not lives, but money. Speaking of which, our next topic. So, Atlanta, if you travel, the only airline you should ever travel in Atlanta is Delta. I mean, really. Well, Delta has reported that they have 500 employees that have tested positive for COVID, and unfortunately, 10 employees have died. These are cases that have been reported since March, and this is out of their 90,000 employees. So if you did the percentage, wouldn't be super high. The interesting thing about Delta, though, is that they are now testing all of their employees in June, basically July. And so they also within that, with the 500 employees, they're unclear and they do not know all the positions of the employees. So they're not sure where their position is within the company, which means that they don't know if they've actually interfaced and face-to-face with some of their customers. But majority of employees, and this is all according to Newsweek, majority of their employees are front-facing and frontline employees and service employees. So my question for you, do you think that airlines should be testing all of their workers? And essentially, what is the level of responsibilities that airlines have for mass safety? We know in the beginning we thought that COVID came from China, and so we just kept focusing everything on China. And then turns out, surprise, surprise, it actually was coming from Europe. So a lot of the cases and the spread was happening from Europe. And so what's the responsibility on airlines about when it comes to mass safety? And should it extend to their passengers as well? Should it be a joint responsibility for mass health?
Well, first of all, I think that the employees of airlines should have been getting tested the minute that COVID became something that required attention. A few months ago, they should have been getting tested starting then, because of the fact, just like you said, you have people that are traveling. Now, as long as you have people that are buying airline tickets, that are getting on the planes, some people cannot help it, then you have to make sure that you're being as safe as possible. And I know they didn't do that at first. And then there were some reasons behind that. I think you can't necessarily blame them. We had the shortage in tests. We had the people that couldn't get their hands on tests. I mean, we had hospitals here in Atlanta that didn't have tests. So I know the airlines didn't have them, right? So you can't blame anybody per se, but I think they should have been getting tested from Jump Street. But here's where you have a little bit of a fine line. You got to play a little bit of tug of war, because when you start telling everybody they need to get tested, are you invading their privacy? Right? It's a question you have to ask. You have to look at it and say, okay, if we're going to require all passengers who pay money to get on our airlines to travel, and we require them to be tested, is that a violation of privacy? I don't know. That's a matter of opinion, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something that you just have to have a discussion about, but it's definitely a topic. But I do think that all the employees most definitely should have been getting tested. The minute that we started hearing about this, the minute it became something that people were like, hey, what's this COVID thing? You know what I mean? We should have been doing it then, because we knew how deadly it was. We knew that it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what your socioeconomic status is. All it cares about is that it can reach you. And if it can reach you, then it can kill you, period, right? So I think that we should have been doing that from jump. But here's the deal. Hindsight's always 20/20. We didn't do it that way. So how do we fix it from here going forward? Because people are getting back on these planes, and these planes are getting full again. You know, as the virus continues to escalate.
Yep. Yeah,
so got to be had from today. What do we do from today?
Right. I have a girlfriend, and she is a flight attendant for Delta, and so they have now started to have to wear masks. They weren't required to wear masks in the beginning, but now the employees definitely have to wear masks. The way they do the seating now, the middle seat is not occupied. So it's window and aisle on planes that have the 3 and 3.
But that's still not a window. That's about 1.5 feet. That's about 18 inches. Like, let's call it what it is. If I'm sitting in the aisle, you're sitting in the window, and I sneeze, those droplets can reach you very easily, right?
Yes, in your radius, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. On the recycled air plane. Like
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's recycled air. Yeah.
At that. And then also, instead of handing out, going up and down the aisles and giving everybody, their beverage selection, when you come on the plane, you're already given a bag that's already been pre-packed with a bottle of water. And now that's it. So with hand sanitizer in there. Where does it go in the future? I mean, because, airlines, how long do you think they're going to operate on a limited capacity, because that's costing fuel, because their objective is to pack out that plane.
Pack it out, right.
And now, you're not flying at its full capacity, but you're using the same amount of fuel. I'm just curious to see how long that's going to last. I haven't been on a flight. Will I be on one?
Well, what you do is exactly what they've been doing, and that is you restrict and you lower the number of flights. You lower the frequency.
Yes.
So now, where you might have had 6 flights a day to New York City, you take it down to 3. You take it down to 2. So now all those people that would have been traveling on those 6, you got to put them on those 2. So you're really losing money. Plus, we all know that the airlines get bailed out by the government, and they should, because they're not. So at the end of the day, it's just about making those business decisions to say we still have to operate, because people still have to get to their destinations. I can understand us not wanting to do international travel right now because of everything, but here's the deal. The minute you walk into, Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, it's the busiest airport in the world. So you're going to get a little something from everybody who's been anywhere. You understand? And there's no way you can really avoid that, because people are going to continue to travel. The only thing that they're attempting to do, again, like I said, is they're limiting the number of flights, which cuts down on the expenses, right? But you still have the same level of exposure. It's not possible for you to get on an airplane and be completely protected from COVID-19. It's not possible. No. So that's something you have to really embrace and understand, that if somebody on that plane has it, and again, a lot of people are asymptomatic, so they have no idea they have it. No fever, no nothing, right? So if you get on a plane and somebody on that plane has it, there's a very high chance you're going to get it.
I'm curious to know what the cleaning process is like once people have left the plane. They don't really talk about that.
I mean, they talk about it. I mean, if you want to get into the science behind cleaning, I actually just watched a video about this before. One of my old friends from college, he and his brother actually just opened a new product called True Clean. And so basically it's different than our normal hand sanitizers. The way that they were explaining like the science behind it is once you're desanitizing something and it's wet, then at that moment you're killing the germs. But once it dries, then the germs just come back to what you just desanitize. So their product actually, and maybe we should get them on the show, their product actually guarantees at least 24-hour time period for you using their product to actually clean something so that it's long term. And it was bred from the brother who was a football player, and he kept wondering if the turf was clean, because everybody's spitting and doing all the other nasty stuff on the turf. And so that's how everything happened. But to say all of that, I mean, what is clean now? I don't know. I think I think there's precautions. China takes people's temperatures before they enter trains and mass places. I don't know. I don't know. What I am curious though is like who regulates this and who is responsible ultimately for our mass health. And I don't know if we have ever thought about this and or have an answer to that question either. That's it for me.
Well, that is it. Wow, Jarard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. It was
definitely want everybody to make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms. In Style Atlanta, you know where we are. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. Jarard, we definitely I want to bring you back again. Can we bring you back?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Where can our friends find you? Because now, and I want to say, Merritt, to all of our viewers out there, now on Monday, Jarard, I know that you jump on, and I forget the gentleman, Isaac, is that his name?
Isaac Keys, yep.
Okay, Isaac Keys, you guys do an amazing job of talking about all kinds of, like, you talk about relationship issues. You really dig in there. Now, sometimes it can be kind of raw.
Right. Yeah.
But it's good, and it's very active, and you guys do an IG live. So tell us how we can find you when that comes on.
It's called Straight Talk No Chaser, hence getting raw every now and then. Yeah, myself and my best friend, Isaac Keys. I met Isaac in 2003 when he was still in the NFL, and I was on the radio in Phoenix, and we just became best friends and brothers. And the premise behind it was based off COVID-19, like the majority of us are getting our content now from Instagram. We, as radio personalities, we're confined to the house like everybody else is. And so there's different means of things have shifted. There's been a paradigm shift in how you get your information. So we say, you know what, man, let's come up with a way just to talk to people, let people come in and have access to us, but talk about stuff that's super relatable, that everybody's going to be able to be like, oh man, that happened to me last week or whatever. So that's the whole thing behind it. So there'll be a bunch of topics. We do it every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern on my Instagram, which is at Jarard_J, at JARARD_J, and Isaac's is at Isaac Keys, ISAAC. KEYS. So come join us, and it's a good time, man. We have a drink and we just discuss stuff that you're discussing, just not maybe on social media.
Right. It's amazing. And Jarard wears some of the most amazing hats, and you're always definitely drinking something. Something is in your hand. They got bartenders and everything.
Hey, I get this quarantine cut under control. I'm gonna keep my hats on.
You look fabulous, darling. You look amazing.
Thank
you. So again, thank you for joining us. Definitely want you back. This is fun. Merritt, thank you all the viewers. You know where you guys can find us, InStyleAtlanta.com. Don't forget, please do subscribe. Click that button so you can always be in the know with us. We'll see you guys back here again soon.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care.
Thanks, Jarard.
All right, be cool.
Bye.